Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video I'm taking it to the Ultra League, where we're checking out a powerful climbing team that you can use to gain ELO. Now these battles are submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Maki DK, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now this team features the ever-present Kyurem as the lead. Kyurem is an incredibly powerful Pokemon with a combination of Glaciate for debuffs and Draco Meteor for damage, and covering that Kyurem is a Shadow for Alligator safe switch and Jellicent as the closer. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at a team that gained this trainer 200 ELO in only one day. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty okay lead, Kyurem into Gastrodon. Now if this Gastrodon is on Earth Power, even with the debuff, it'll still be able to inflict some pretty solid damage. But if it is on Water Pulse, then the matchup gets a lot less clear. Opponent banks the energy, resets the debuff, and safe switches in a Corviknight. Corviknight immediately debuffed by Glaciate, and out comes Shadow for Alligator. Shadow for Alligator, not gonna worry about a debuff payback whatsoever, and for Alligator can very comfortably look to farm up to just shy of the back-to-back Hydro Cannons. First Hydro Cannon is going to be shielded. Corviknight going to try and make a play for switch advantage, but Shadow for Alligator's pacing advantage is going to be absolutely deadly. A double shield comes out from the opponent, and at this point, for Alligator's happy to let switch advantage go. Air Cutter lands, opponent gets the boost. They switch into Gastrodon, worried they wouldn't get the farm down, but now Gastrodon loses almost its entire health bar to a Hydro Cannon. In comes Jellicent. Jellicent no shields as Gastrodon blind through a body slam, and now up 2 shields to 0. Jellicent should be in prime position to sweep. Jellicent shields up. It is going to be an Air Cutter bait from the Corviknight, but now it's basically a full health Jellicent with a shield advantage versus whatever they have in the back. Their final Pokemon is revealed to be Florges, and this game is over. Jellicent going to lock in some damage with a Surf before Florges can potentially get a debuff with Chilling Water. Florges, very nice job over farming here, making sure to throw on good charge attack timing, but even if they full set the Moonblast, it just simply would not knock out. Instead, they're going to go for the double Chilling Waters, but there's just no path forward for them in this game. The Shadow Ball is banked, in comes Kyurem, and the opponent realizes there's no win con, so they will concede the match. We move to the next match, and it's a tough lead for Kyurem leading into Licky. Licky used to be top Ultra League meta. It's been out of the meta for a few seasons, but with the Body Slam buff, maybe it can get back to those previous heights. Body Slam does get shielded, and now Kyurem will get to connect with the Glaciate. Opponent safe switches a Shadow Mamoswine, and the opponent's just emptying the Spice Cabinet. My goodness. Glaciate gets shielded, out comes Jellicent. And this is not where you want to be as Mamoswine. If the Feraligatr was brought in, Feraligatr would still take quite a lot of damage. The opponent actually on Bulldoze on the Mamoswine. Bulldoze will give the Mamoswine faster pacing to ground damage, but Bulldoze is a very poor move. Surf lands, picking up the knockout. Back in comes the Licky. Licky immediately going to be hit with the Surf. Licky doesn't have to respect the Surf, because even a second Surf would not be enough to knock out here, as Licky double resisting the Hexes means that the Jellicent basically has no fast move pressure ever, and the opponent knows it. They're going to no shield. What nuke move are they running on the Licky? It is Earthquake, and in the back, they have Torterra. Torterra, a little bit scary considering that a Feraligatr was switched in, but Feraligatr has a pacing advantage, and Hydro Cannon just does so much neutral damage. The frailty of Torterra is going to cost it. Torterra gets the shield with a Frenzy Plant, but unfortunately, this game is just going to turn into a fast move beatdown that the opponent has no ability to win. Hydro Cannon forces the shield. They can take the knockout onto the Feraligatr, but now everything is getting farmed down by Kyurem, as they just don't have enough energy to make a Frenzy Plant. Kyurem farms down the Licky. All that's left is that Torterra. Oh my goodness, and Kyurem gets the last second Glaciate. This is massive overkill, knocking out Torterra and securing the Game 2 win. Hopping into the next match, Kyurem is going to be greeted this time with Cobalion. That is a truly atrocious lead. Safe switch for Alligator unanswered by the opponent, as they're going to stay in and get some chip damage with Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword is going to be no shielded by Feraligatr. Out comes Corviknight, and Feraligatr's energy advantage could prove to be a little bit uncomfortable for Corviknight. Hydro Cannon is going to connect. Opponent does have enough for the Air Cutter, but Air Cutter just simply will not be enough to take the knockout. Feraligatr is able to hang on, and these Shadow Claws are putting the Corviknight dangerously close to Hydro Cannon range. Will the opponent risk it? Yes, they will click no shield. Feraligatr, no, just gets farmed down, and unfortunately, switch advantage is not won. I had hoped for a second, but unfortunately that hope was dashed. Corviknight just too bulky, and now in comes Kyurem to tank the Air Cutter, and Jellicent gets up a Hex. In the back is Feraligatr, and unfortunately this is looking like this could be a loss, as there's just not really a world in which Jellicent is able to sweep. Jellicent is able to successfully surf bait against the Feraligatr. That would definitely be step one, but the biggest issue is that the Kyurem's HP is just so valueless, considering it has no coverage for the Cobalion. Hydro Cannon does get shielded. Another bait from the Jellicent. Jellicent pulling out all the stops, trying to claw back in this game. There's the shield. In comes Kyurem. And Kyurem will swiftly be answered with the Cobalion. At the very least, the Cobalion has been baited back out. But I think the Jellicent is just too low, and the Feraligatr will not be in Shadow Ball range. Kyurem, no shields. Opponent, Sacred Sword, will still be enough to take the knockout, and back in comes the Jellicent. Jellicent is going to need a miracle to take home this win, and unfortunately, I just don't think Jellicent has enough HP to do so. There's the switch into Feraligatr, and Feraligatr immediately answered with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands, there's the Surf, but unfortunately, Cobalion should be able to get to a Stone Edge, and Stone Edge will be winning this game, and unfortunately, the Surf will not knock out either. A valiant attempt, but unfortunately, the Jellicent just had too much to do in that endgame and not enough HP. Picking up a much better lead in the next match, leading Kyurem into Credilli. The pacing advantage is what makes this matchup so advantageous for Kyurem, as Credilli, 14 turns to the first and then 12 to the rest, but for Kyurem, it's every 10 turns, being able to spam out those Glaciates at a terrifying speed. Rock Tomb does get shielded. Opponent now sends out Corviknight, and Corviknight will immediately be debuffed. This is a -1 Glaciate, so it's going to do basically no damage, but now out comes Feraligatr, and Feraligatr we've seen does not have to worry about a -1 payback whatsoever. Importantly, it does not put the Feraligatr into Air Cutter range either, so the Corviknight, if it wants to try and threaten a knockout, will have to farm all the way back up to a payback. The back-to-back Hydro Cannons are available for Feraligatr. Feraligatr will take the knockout as down goes Corviknight. Opponent can bring back in the Credilli, but Credilli is not going to be able to farm down before Feraligatr is able to pressure quite a few shields. So, unfortunately for the Credilli, Credilli has to waste a lot of its banked energy. Grass Knot takes the KO, back in comes Kyurem, and Kyurem will be able to outpace the opponent with an Ice Catch as they're able to catch that Glaciate onto Florges. In comes Jellicent, and there's not much a debuff Florges can do. Opponent with a massive misplay as they throw on alignment, giving an entire free Hex's worth of energy to the Jellicent. They do get the Moonblast debuff, but even so, they could have very comfortably thrown one extra Fairy Wind and not given that entire free Hex. Jellicent gonna look for a full Hex down. The Florges is very, very low, but they're able to hang on and make it to another Moonblast. There's the switch into Credilli. Credilli still has the shield to hide behind, so Jellicent will go for the bait. The bait does get called. In comes Kyurem. Kyurem gets to the Glaciate, and now the opponent has to shield. They have no HP on anything. The Florges is basically 1 HP. They shield the Glaciate. Kyurem is gonna no shield, and Jellicent will be able to take home the win. As in comes Jellicent, opponent realizes there is nothing they can do, and they will resign the match. Hopping into the next match, Kyurem going to be met with Greninja, an amazing lead for Kyurem. Greninja switches out, safe switch into the Galarian Weezing, and Weezing, behind by a turn, is unable to get the Sludge before the Glaciate is reached. Glaciate lands, and now out comes Feraligatr. Feraligatr will get outpaced as the opponent will be able to double up on Sludges, but that's not really a problem since the Sludges are at -1. The opponent's actually on Brutal Swing. Interesting, maybe they're Brutal Swing overheat if they fire off back-to-back Brutal Swings. The nice thing for Feraligatr is with the Shadow Claws adding up so much, Hydro Cannon will probably just knock out. Hydro Cannon lands, picking up the knockout. Greninja will be a wall to this Feraligatr energy, but it will still add up. It's actually Tentacruel in the back. The Hydro Cannon is saved, and in comes Kyurem. Honestly, I think personally I would have just stayed in and won the game off of alignment, as I feel like pivoting out could make things a little bit risky. Kyurem farms up to the Draco Meteor base with a Glaciate, hoping for the shield and getting the shield, but now you have a Jellicent and the opponent's lead was Greninja, so that could get quite tricky. Scald does get shielded, as unfortunately this Kyurem is so low. Kyurem gonna look to take the knockout with the Draco Meteor. Draco Meteor is gonna land, picking up the knockout. Back in comes Greninja. But where there's Greninja, there is Feraligatr. Feraligatr saved all the energy from earlier, and now these Hydro Cannons, even though they are resisted, Greninja is so frail that Greninja is forced to put up a shield. Even worse, Greninja cannot farm down, it's forced to throw energy, and now that the Greninja is as low as it is, the Jellicent will actually be able to knock it out. This is normally one of Jellicent's worst possible matchups as it's completely walled, but today is not a normal day. The Greninja is just simply too low. This Night Slash will not be enough to knock out, and Shadow Ball, despite being resisted, should be enough to deliver the win. So Jellicent gets to flip the script, KOing Greninja and taking home the victory. Picking up a very negative lead in the next match, Kyurem into Florges. Kyurem will have a pretty nice pacing advantage in this matchup, but the Dragon Breath being double resisted means that it's a tough road for Kyurem without an energy advantage. Glaciate lands, in comes Feraligatr. Feraligatr is thrilled that they're staying in to fire off a debuff Moonblast, but much less thrilled when it's revealed they have Trailblaze. Trailblaze lands, but they switch out and make a catch onto Belly Bolt, and this is honestly amazing. This team needs to bait out a Belly Bolt, because otherwise the Jellicent is going to get absolutely destroyed in the endgame. The opponent could have stayed in, they were up on energy, boosted themselves with Trailblaze, and just won switch advantage, but instead they didn't. They end up bringing in the Belly Bolt, they're forced to burn a shield and throw energy, and suddenly, this game might actually be winnable. It's still going to be very uphill considering it is a Trailblaze Florges, but by baiting out the Belly Bolt, there might actually be a chance. Kyurem, farming up so much energy, unfortunately cannot farm down Belly Bolt. Boosting up its defense is just simply too bulky. In comes Florges, answered with the Jellicent, and Florges now gets to ramp up its attack with Trailblaze. Trailblaze is going to connect. Opponent switches out. In the back is Shadow Torterra, and Torterra is going to take massive damage from Shadow Ball. Jellicent decides to opt for Surf instead, now going to go for Surf number 2. Opponent is in a really awkward spot because there's quite a bit of energy loaded on the Kyurem. They end up no shielding, they get farmed down, and with 2 shields still to hide behind, that game will be a win. We move to the next game, and it's a battle of Real Dragon versus Fake Dragon, Kyurem versus Charizard. Kyurem will be able to outpace, getting to the Glaciate before Charizard gets to the Blast Burn. There's the switch in for Alligator, hoping for a Blast Burn catch, but it's not to be, and instead, this is going to be Virizion answering for Alligator. For Alligator, no shields to Leaf Blade. Unfortunately, Virizion can survive an Ice Beam. Not super well, but Virizion does actually hang on here. Virizion decides to shield, and instead will go for the full double kick down. But now, Kyurem gets to hit the field. Kyurem will probably look to invest heavily in shielding itself from these Sacred Swords and try and make it to a Glaciate. But there's the switch out. In comes Charizard. Charizard's Blast Burn is going to be caught onto the Jellicent. So great reaction time there. Charizard going to now probably go for the Air Cutter, I would imagine, fishing for a potential boost. There is the Air Cutter. No boost to speak of, and there's Air Cutter number 2. So the Charizard's energy advantage, putting in some serious work against this Jellicent. Jellicent finally will get to fire off the Surf. This is super effective damage. Opponent has no shields to hide behind, and they will get knocked out. In the back is going to be Guzzlord, and this is looking like a very difficult game to win. Guzzlord takes big damage from Glaciate, but Guzzlord now gets to fire off the Brutal Swing. It's a debuffed Brutal Swing, so you feel like you can't shield it, but at the same time, you're just running out of HP, so the shield does come up. Glaciate into Virizion, does not take the knockout. Virizion survives on 1 HP, and that's gonna seal it. If Kyurem still had health, this was a winnable game, but unfortunately, Guzzlord will survive this Shadow Ball. It's gonna be close, but it's a Guzzlord. I trust it's gonna hang on, and it does. Oh, that is devastating. The 1 HP Virizion means the opponent will be taking home this win. Hopping into the final match, leading Kyurem into Turtonator. Oh my, the opponent breaking out the spice. Kyurem will be able to make the Glaciate before the Dragon Claw is available. Kyurem, I believe, CMP tied, an incredibly risky CMP tie, because if Turtonator overfarmed, then potentially that could have been an entire free Incinerate. But instead it ends up being a CMP tie safe switch from the opponent into Florges, and Kyurem is going to look to debuff it with a Glaciate before switching out. Glaciate lands, in comes Feraligatr. Feraligatr more than happy to absorb whatever they throw. Florges goes for the Chilling Water, and unfortunately, a Chilling Water was already resisted, and now it does less than nothing because of the debuff as well. There's a Disarming Voice from Florges, so a bit of an interesting moveset choice from the Florges. Feraligatr has massively overfarmed. Feraligatr, even with the debuff, hoping Hydro Cannon can take the knockout, and it does. In the back is Galarian Moltres. There's so much energy available on this Feraligatr. Opponent makes a catch, catching the Hydro Cannon onto Turtonator. There's the switch into Kyurem. Kyurem gets the full farm down, exiting with the Glaciate, and unfortunately this Moltres is about to have an absolutely dreadful day. Glaciate gets the shield. Moltres cannot get the farm down. They're forced to throw the fly, and Kyurem puts up the shield, knowing the game is won. The opponent will not even get to see the Jellicent, because Glaciate, while it will not knock out, will put it into Hydro Cannon range, and it's only a matter of time. They get the farm down, but the Hydro Cannon is ready on Feraligatr, and that's going to be game over. That Moltres would have been an absolute nightmare for the Jellicent, so luckily, it will never know just how close it was to sweeping that endgame. All in all, I feel like this is a very strong climbing team for the Open Ultra League. Many thanks to Maki for sending in this footage. Maki mentioned the first day of playing this team, I believe they went 22-8 across the 6 sets that they played and climbed 200 ELO, and they're up over 300 ELO in the day since. So it appears this is a very strong team, and we definitely get to see why. Kyurem, it's one of the most broken Ultra League Pokemon. Being able to spam out Glaciate every 10 turns is absolutely unreal. And even though we didn't get to see a lot of Draco Meteors land in this video, Draco Meteor just provides it incredible shields down nuke ability, even against some of the bulkiest Pokemon the Ultra League has to offer, like Lapras, Armored Mewtwo, and Cresselia. And Shadow Feraligatr, even though it doesn't see the usage that it has in the past, its consistency. Every 10 turns Hydro Cannon, every 14 turns for Ice Beam, and Shadow Claw, just being all around an amazing neutral move, means that it's always going to have at least some play in any given meta. And finally, Jellicent. Jellicent, not really a Pokemon that was on my radar for this season, but Jellicent put in some pretty serious work in these games. Jellicent's bulk is really nice, especially on a team like this, where Shadow Feraligatr, it's not known for its bulk, and Kyurem oftentimes has to give up a shield in order to artificially increase its bulk with Glaciate debuffs. So having a Pokemon that can do very well in the zeros and doesn't really need shields, honestly ends up really being the anchor that pulls this team together. Because if you have to end up using shields on your Glacier options, it's important to make sure that you have at least one tank on the team that can really take those hits and still deliver some pretty nice neutral damage. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys, oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.